Hello, my name is Joe Pineda, and today I'll be persuading you on why video games can be a benefit to the young generation. Since the era of the Atari and the Sega Genesis, the use of ownership of video games has increased tremendously. Many adults argue that video games have become a negative effect on the younger population. However, it can be proven that video games can be a benefit to the younger population. Did you know that according to VentureBeats.com 2015 statistics that approximately 155 million Americans play video games and 80% of households own gaming consoles? The main points I will be talking about today is 1. Video games can test your mind. 2. It can offer a great distraction on keeping kids safe indoors. And 3. It helps people of all ages and kids embrace parts of themselves that they may have trouble, such as their creativity or their social skills. My first point is brain growth and activity. IQ testing is constantly being tested within video games. According to Peter Gray, PhD of PsychologyToday.com, studies show that young gamers on average have a higher IQ and perform better on a wide variety of tests on mental abilities than non-gamers. The frontal lobe is constantly tested while playing video games. This holds the process function of our brain, or the problem-solving function of our brain, meaning that information is constantly being thrown towards our brain and it's processed, and which then is notices a problem and is solved. So video games are constantly a problem and solving system, such as being stuck in a maze and you're trying to just find your way out. That's the same concept of a video game. In video games, there's challenges and rewards. A challenge is what pulls a player to a game, while a reward is what keeps the player going. Challenges is a great thing for video games because that's what tests the mind and what's beneficiary for kids. Now you have to play the right games and control what they play, which we'll get to right now in the negative part of what video games is. But the rewards can also lead to another negative effect, which is gaming addiction. Now with my second point, we'll be covering those negative effects and how it's easy to solve them. So my second point is distractions. My first is that in positive distractions, it can be very therapeutic for people. Video games can be a coping mechanism used to get rid of stress after a long day of work or school, which I use as a therapeutic. I've been a young gamer all my life, and I've used it as a therapy. Now I do control the time that I play, which stops it from being a negative effect on me. I can take a break whenever I want, but overall it does help me release some stress, such as a mom would sew or do any kind of arts or crafts to get her mind out of cleaning or taking care of the kids, and that's just an example. It could also be less drugs and crimes for kids. I personally didn't go to many house parties, as did my friends that I played video games with and we played together. We went to less house parties than our parents did, or even a generation 10 years back, like our brothers or sisters, our older brothers and sisters or cousins did. We just were doing less drugs and less crimes are being committed because kids are staying more indoors rather than loitering outside and causing mayhem, such as vandalism or shoplifting. So it is beneficiary in that way. Another good distraction is that it can keep kids safely at home, especially in these times in the quarantine. You're able to keep the kids home while them not having to risk their health or even your family's health by going out with friends. They're able to connect with their friends and have a good time at home. And during non-quarantine times, you could also be the strict parent at home, but giving them video games will make them hate you a little bit less, because of course every kid's going to be resilient towards their strict parent not letting them go out with friends. But video games can be a use to your advantage by letting them play that and keeping them indoors. Now with negative distraction, going back to gaming addiction, Gaming addiction is a serious thing, but is way easier to solve than your kid being hooked on nicotine, which is a stronger addiction, or alcohol, more negative effects that can have on their health. With gaming addiction, it can be easily solved with good parenting. And I don't mean this in any offense, because it can be hard sometimes. Parents can be working 3 jobs and not be able to control their kids. But when you can, you should limit their playing time and you should limit what they play. Of course, you should not be letting a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old play GTA. If you don't know what GTA is, it's a crime-based video game that should only be played by 18 and older. I still don't recommend teens playing it, as it could influence them in ways because their brain is still developing. But video game ultimately is not a very negative thing, as it can be controlled by taking the controller away, or just I know on PlayStation and Xbox now they have parenting controls where you can limit the games they can play by setting security passcodes on and not letting them play GTA or any of the harsh games anymore. You could let them play beneficiary games like Minecraft, to where they're allowed to, where it's not that graphic or disturbing, and they can have some good times with their friends still. My third point is experiences. Experiences in video games are a really good thing. With my first point, it's the imagination. One thing is that video game companies are not running out of ideas, as your kids should not be running out of any ideas. Of course, you'll have to buy them more games and it'll be fun, but ultimately it's impossible to run out of having fun if they keep limited on their time and they're not playing too much throughout of the day. It's beneficiary games like Minecraft that let imagination run crazy, where they could build anything they want and just explore as much as they want to. With adventure now, as another point, it's important to make friends as a child to be able to build social skills for when you're older, for jobs and other kind of things as an adult that you'll need the social skills. So it does help kids make friends. You could make friends from around the world, to the country, to the same city, or even in their same school, being able to connect in another way. I was able to make a huge group of friends, which we're still friends to this day since the 5th grade, and we've still remained close. I have so much memories with them that we've created on these video games, and adventures have been made, and I appreciate every moment that I have of it. Another thing is that video games allow people to go places they would never go, or do things that they would never do. It's almost impossible to visit every place in the world, but ultimately video games does give you a chance to see things that you would never see in your life, such as seeing the Eiffel Tower in Paris in a video game. Of course, it's not the same thing, but it's as close as it could get. In conclusion, video games have consumed almost every household in America, and it is a growing thing. But ultimately, it's not a bad thing for children if you just control it. It is a gender neutral thing, and it's amazing to see gamer girls coming out now and playing with boys, and people of all ages are playing. Adults are playing now. People that used to play the Atari are now joining in this community, which is great. And the biggest thing is that it can influence the brain and ultimately boost your IQ, and it can help your kids grow in social skills in your brain and ultimately make memories with more people. Thank you for listening to me today, and I hope I changed your perspective on video games.